Meeting for November 2nd, 2021. Madam Town Clerk, is the warrant legal?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, the warrant's been posted according to the bylaws of the town of Upton and Mass General Law.
Thank you very much. Chair of the Board of Selectmen, or the Chair, if we could do standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Stand.
All stand, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. So just a couple of minor things before we get going. I'd like to have a motion to accept visitors. I'll read through these quickly. Dennis Westgate, NPW, Kenny Costa, Town Accountant, Brendan Crowell, Town Crier, Jerry Collins, Huffman and Page, Derek Randizzi, Town Manager, David Meridian, State Rep, Glenn Phipps, Maplewood Cemetery Trustee, Matthew Broderick, Library Director, Janice Nowicki, Council on Aging, Paul Delapia, I think, Paul Bullock, Town Planner, Michael Dunleavy, and Catherine Dunleavy. Just visitors. Thank you very much. We have a motion to accept those visitors.
So, Mr. Moderator.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor, you can say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. I didn't hand out the card. Oh, no. Okay. Well, you know what? It would be good if we did that, simply because I'll take a couple of minutes to talk. So, I was going to talk about how recently we've been using the red cards and the green cards. We will continue to do that. And Madam Town Clerk is going to go and get some help and make sure you all have a red card and a green card if you are voters, if you are citizens, so that you can vote, if you're registered voters. Okay? In addition to that, for the past couple of years, we have had I have been reading the motions because of everything that's been going on to minimize the amount of movement, people in microphones, and so on and so forth. But we're at a place now where, according to the town nurse and others who know these things, it's okay to have the proponents read their motions again. And I certainly prefer that myself because while I was reading the motions, typically, obviously, the moderator does not do that. That's really not their job. So those of you who have articles on the warrant, hopefully you know by now that you will be making the motion tonight. So that's a good thing. A couple more minor things to talk about with regard to one thing I guess, as the cards are going up, some people might be thinking, well, since we went back to having the sponsors read the motions, why not go back to the yeas and nays? That's a good question. And I'm somebody who, quite frankly, really like doing the yeas and the nays. One of the reasons being, quite frankly, is that town meetings can be long, and sometimes they can get boring. And I figured it's nice for the townspeople to yell and scream once in a while every 5 minutes ago, whether it's a loud yay or a loud nay, and it keeps you sort of involved. Okay? Having said that, because we've had to not do that for a while now, and we've used the cards, I do like the cards, and there's a real good advantage to having them, and this is what it is. Sometimes people will think that the vote's a lot closer than it is on the yeas and nays, even though it's really not. And they might want to challenge, and everyone's got the right to do that. When you see the cards go up and down, it's a lot more obvious whether something passes or fails. So therefore, we will continue with using the red cards and the green cards. And for those of you who are new to this, what will happen is, on each article that comes forward, we make a motion, we discuss it. When we're ready to vote on it, I'll say, all those in favor, please raise your green card. You raise it up. I'll do a quick scan. Put them down. All those opposed, hold up the red card. I do a quick scan. If it's clear, yay or nay, I will then make the call. If it looks like it's pretty close, okay, then we'll have a standing count like we've done in the past, okay? But also, like in the past, if I make a call on something and someone doesn't agree, and they get 7 of their citizens, registered voters to stand and say, Mr. Moderator, you made the wrong call, okay, then we will then have a standing time. Keep in mind though, just to remind people, using that is not something that you should do just because your side lost. It's because you really think that I made the wrong call. We here, there's good citizenship. They like coming to town meeting, but if they all know what really happened, and 7 or 8 of you say, well, no, it didn't happen that way, you know, you're putting them in, you're saying we're going to waste 5 minutes because we all know what really happened, okay? And now that we have the cards, it's pretty clear, okay, the way that call went. So, no problem. So, before we continue, I want to make sure, does every registered voter have a red and green card? Anybody not? No? Okay. Yes. No red. You don't have a red card? No problem. If you run out of red cards, have a red mask. No, we'll make sure we get you a red card, Mr. Randolph. Okay, one's coming over right now. Does anybody have more than one red or green card? Oh, you're all very honest. I'm glad to see that. If you do have more than one, you cannot hold them both up at the same time. You know what I'm trying to say here? Okay, fine. No stacking the town meeting. Thank you very much. Okay. Unless there's any other questions, I think we're ready to begin. It's a standard routine we go through. We have articles, we make motions, talk about it, and then we vote on it, and then we go from there. So, if there's nothing else, let's begin. Who has the motion for Article 1? Mr. Mattel. You can take your mask off if you wish to. It's up to you.
I move that the town vote to fund and implement the cost items for the first fiscal years of the collective bargaining agreements. The town has met with Teamsters Local 170, such agreement for a term beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending on June 30th, 2024, and with Mass Coalition of Police Local 162, such agreement for a term beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending on June 30th, 2024 as follows. Raise and appropriate the sum of $24,000 to the police department budget appropriated under Article 2B of the 2021 annual town meeting, and raise and appropriate the sum of $8,238 to the public works department budget appropriated under Article 2B of the 2021 annual town meeting. Increase the water enterprise budget voted under Article 3 of the 2021 annual town meeting by $15,911, which shall be funded by water user fees. And increase the wastewater enterprise budget voted under Article 4 of the 2021 annual town meeting by $15,310, which shall be funded by wastewater user fees.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Finance Committee recommendation?
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much. Before we continue, the sum in the article is $40,000. I know if you add all those up, it's more than 40. But the reason might be because of the enterprise fund things, so those are not part of that 40, correct? Just want to make sure. Thank you very much. Okay, good. Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor signify by raising your green card. Okay, put them down. All those opposed, raise your red card. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Oh, and I forgot to mention, when you step up for your first time to speak, please state your name and address. So thank you very much. The motion for Article 2A.
Incidentally, Steve Metellian, 161 South Street, Upton, Mass. And good evening, everybody. Forgot to do that part.
That's okay.
All right. I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by gift, purchase, or eminent domain for cemetery purposes the fee simple interest in a parcel of land containing 20.2 acres, more or less, together with the buildings and improvements thereon, being Assessor's Map 024-017, located at 0 Maple Ave, described in a deed recorded with the Worcester Registry of Deeds as Plan Book 957, Plan 101. Also known as Maplewood Cemetery. And further, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into all agreements and take all related actions necessary or appropriate to carry out this acquisition, on such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen shall, in its discretion, deem reasonable, and to take all related actions necessary or appropriate to effectuate such acquisition.
Is there a second?
Second.
Finance Committee, is this something that you have an opinion on or not?
While it does, the article in itself does not lend itself to a monetary appropriation, it certainly has ramifications going forward. But the Finance Committee did recommend that this article proceed forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Any discussion on this?
Mr. Moderator,
Okay.
before we begin discussion, would you mind if I give a brief presentation?
That'd be fine. So it makes sense to put the presentation first, and then clearly if you have questions after that. Go ahead.
Great. So good evening, everybody. I think you all know me, Derek Berdizzi, Town Manager. Before I do the quick presentation on the cemetery article, I wanted to recognize State Representative David Meridian, who was in the back of the room, because last Monday, Mr. Meridian had called me and he had said, hey, listen, like he always does, we have an opportunity to bring additional dollars to the town of Upton. And so we had a conversation. We were able to submit up to $1 million of capital requests on behalf of the town. Rep. Meridian called me less than 24 hours later and said he was able to secure $100,000 to be put towards capital improvements for the town of Upton. So since the state rep is here this evening, I just want to acknowledge and thank him for his hard work that he does each and every time he goes out to the State House. So thank you, State Rep. And additionally, one more announcement. Chief Bradley is not here with us, and so I just wanted to let you all know that Chief Bradley in December will be appointed the president of the Mass Chiefs Association. So that is a huge honor for not only Chief Bradley, but for the town of Upton as a whole. So when you see Chief Bradley, please make sure that you congratulate him. That's a very distinct privilege that he's going to carry for the next 12 months. So thank you, Chief Bradley. Okay, so there's been a lot of conversations about Article 2A. And so the article, as you know, reads that the town would like to accept, potentially, the Maplewood Cemetery. And so I'm going to give you a brief update as to what brought us here today. So I'm presenting on behalf of the Cemetery Commission. Glenn Fowler's here from the Cemetery Commission. Russ Wood is here from the Maplewood Cemetery Association. They can answer any detailed questions that you may have relative to this. So this is a 20-acre parcel. I think many of you know where the Maplewood Cemetery is located. The Cemetery Association trustees met in May of 21, and then that's when they decided that they wanted to engage the town, specifically the Upton Cemetery Commission, to donate this property to the town. Now, you probably have heard over the years that our Cemetery Commission has been looking for land because we were running out of space at Lakeview. And so this kind of, the stars were starting to align with Maplewood's potential donation and the Cemetery Commission's ongoing search. Once this took place, the two commissions started to work feverishly on doing a lot of work in the cemetery. So you have noticed that the chapel has been upgraded. Actually, CPC dollars was used to upgrade the chapel and renovate it. You've noticed that the white picket fence has been restored over the course of the summer. Trees have been taken down in preparation of making this cemetery, bringing it back to its former grace. Next slide. So I guess the first question is, what's going on at Lakeview? Why do we need more space over at Maplewood? So this is the current status of Lakeview Cemetery. There are about 375 lots remaining. Each year, they average about 20 lots are sold. So that gives us an average projected life of about another additional 18 years. Just as an aside, it's required by statute for municipalities to have a burial place for their residents. So when Lakeview Cemetery, all the plots are exhausted, we would be forced to find land in order to have a burial place for our residents. Next slide. So this is Maplewood. You can see here, it's 22 acres of land. They average about 22 lot sales per year. You'll see on the next slide, I have a map. There's three distinct parcels at the cemetery. The central is what you probably know as Maplewood. It's the area that has a white picket fence around it. That's 10 acres of land. At the current pace of 22 lot sales per year, it would give us about 21 years of useful life. The southern lot, which is the lot closest to Pleasant Street, is 4 acres of land and has not been disturbed at all at this point and has about 30 years of useful life. And then there's the northern lot, which is a treed lot, hasn't been cleared at this time, represents about 6 acres of land, and that has a useful life of 25 years, potentially. So in total, the Maplewood Cemetery, based upon the current 22 lot sales per year, has about a life expectancy of 100 years, plus the 18 years I just described at Lakeview. That'll give us 118 years of useful life for our residents. Next slide. So again, these are the different parcels. To the right of the screen, that is the 4 acre lot that is on the corner of Pleasant and Maple. The 10 acre lot is what you typically would see if you entered the cemetery. And then the 6 acre lot is the treed wooded lot I just described. Next slide. So if this transfer were to take place, there is some money remaining in Maplewood's perpetual care fund. You'll see that they've donated, in the next slide, substantial equipment and supplies to the town. But if this transfer were to take place, there'd be an estimated $8,000 to $9,000 that would be transferred over to the town for future use of maintenance of the property. The DPW, go back to the last slide. The DPW, and you'll see is Article 2B, 2C, we would be expected to hire a full-time employee. Like we have one full-time employee at Lakeview, we would need one additional employee that would be responsible for the maintenance of this property. As an aside, some folks may ask the question, why don't we use the existing person who's doing this? Once this becomes a public cemetery, we are required by collective bargaining to use union forces. We are not allowed by state law to outsource this to private entities because we already own and operate a cemetery. It's already being managed and maintained by union forces, so therefore we would have to do the same for this as well. BBT has committed to continue to manufacture these white picket fence so that we can continue to maintain that fence for years to come. There are plans from the cemetery commissioners to use the chapel. The chapel's already been restored, but they'd like to use it for potential revenue sources, maybe for burial services, or even some may want to use it for a wedding. Next slide. These are some of the donations that the Maplewood Association has already contributed for this property. There was a John Deere tractor that was purchased. This year, they have pledged to purchase a new stand-up mower for the town. They have pledged to purchase 2 weed whackers and then a leaf blower at $4,000. Next slide. So again, the next question, so what would happen if we don't do this? Well, as I described, the cemetery commissioners for years have been searching for land in town to try to acquire and then eventually clear cut and make a cemetery. So there's been some properties that are upwards of $500,000 in acquisition fees, which would then include clear cutting the property, turning it into a usable parcel of land that could be used for cemetery purposes, which, you know, obviously would be in hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. We would still have to purchase the equipment. We would still have to hire the same labor. The difference in what we would have to do if we didn't acquire Maplewood is that Maplewood Cemetery is being donated to the town. It's already been cleared for cemetery purposes. So the town's commitment at this point, or exposure at this point, would be some labor, well, would be labor and would be some equipment. Next slide. So that's in summary, what I know of this acquisition. Like I said, Russ Wood is here to represent the Maplewood Association, and Glenn Collins here to represent the cemetery commissioners. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further discussion?
Hi, I'm Lisa Sebastiano, 18 Rockdale Circle. I guess I'm not here to say that the town should not eventually take ownership of Maplewood Cemetery. I just am concerned that we 23 years ago purchased 2 lots, which hold 4 graves, one of which is, and I'm going to openly cry here, which is held by our twin baby boys that did not survive. And we chose to bury them in Maplewood because of the park-like feel there, and that we were able to do plantings. And I just found out about this like 2 weeks ago. So this may have been in the works with Maplewood since May, but I don't understand, and I'd like to hear from Russ Wood as a representative of Maplewood, why we were not contacted. We live in the same house. We've lived in Upton for nearly 30 years. We're in the same address that's on our agreement with them. This is a private cemetery that is going to be a now town-owned entity, so it will fall under all of the same rules, I understand, that Lakeview uses, which are different than what Maplewood uses. I was reviewing those this afternoon, and I would just, for me, I just want more time. I don't feel like most people who have plots there know that this is happening, and I would ask that we push this off to the next vote so that I have time to understand what it means to Maplewood. I don't want it paved. I don't need it open in the winter. I'm happy to trudge back there in my boots if I have to. We're going to change everything about it and the reason that we chose it.
So the real question is about the communication question. I guess that's a question that you...
I would like to table this to spring, but my question is, first of all, I don't understand when I read through my agreement with Maplewood that we were supposed to be able to have a meeting and a vote on certain things that happened. I not only was not contacted, I did not, I mean, I guess there was articles written about this in the town crier I hear this summer, which I dug through all the copies that I have at my house, and it didn't happen to be any of those still. But the communication was poor, so I don't know. And people who don't live in Upton, how are they supposed to, but have their loved ones buried there, how are they supposed to learn that this was happening?
So it sounds like the real question is you want to know about the communication aspect. So why don't we have somebody answer that, and we'll see where we go from there.
Okay.
Okay. Either Mr. Wood or somebody else, if they could answer the question about communication, what was the process, so on and so forth.
I'm Russell Wood, 3 Nelson Street here in Upton. I am also the president of the Maplewood Cemetery Trustees. And in May this year, we sent a letter to the Upton Cemetery Commission. Let's see. Due to our declining financial situation and the spiraling costs of upkeep, we, the trustees of Maplewood Cemetery, collectively made a decision to transfer ownership of the cemetery and all of its assets, and with the agreement of the Knowlton family, to the Upton Cemetery Commission for the sole purpose of maintaining Maplewood Cemetery in perpetuity. Now, on Article 7 of the Maplewood Cemetery's bylaws, it says here, the duty of the Board of Trustees to have general oversight of all the concerns and manage all the financial affairs of the association. So we do have that right to manage all the association. And it doesn't say anything here about calling a meeting for voters.
Please let him finish. Mr. Wood, anything else that you want to add to that? All set?
Well, I've been associated with the cemetery since 1950. And my great-great-grandfather is buried there. He's a Civil War veteran, chaplain during the Civil War, and he's also a state senator. I believe there's another state senator buried there also. This is a very historic cemetery. There's also a mother and her 5 children are buried there, victim of a fire. This is a very sad place, very emotional place, and it's with great, regret that we have to do this, turn this over to the town. But the deterioration of it, the deterioration of the cemetery has become far too great. For every project we addressed and tried to fix up, 3 more popped up. It was just overwhelming. We just couldn't afford it anymore. So we have great faith in the Upton Cemetery Commission taking over this and running it properly in that way it should be run. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Lisa Sebastiano, 18 Rockdale Hill Circle. It does say in Article 11 of our agreement with the bylaws of Maplewood Cemetery Association that there's an annual meeting of the association shall be held in Upton during the month of April, but not later than May 15th, and each year at such time and place as the trustees shall determine, notice of which shall be given by the clerk by posting printed notices in not less than 3 public places in the town of Upton to be designated by the Board of Trustees, and or by sending to each member by mail or otherwise 14 days at least before said meeting. I guess I would ask Mr. Wood where those were posted and published each year. I guess we always assumed if anything of great importance was going to happen with Maplewood that we would be notified in writing.
Okay. Yeah, if there's anybody that could make further comment to whether or not any other notification should have happened with the individuals, I don't know the answer to that, but I don't think the board or someone else wanted to try to answer that particular question.
Bill Andrews, 84 High Street. I'm not actually going to move the question, but I am going to say that I understand people's concerns, but really I'm here to vote at this meeting on this motion. And it seems that we're talking about other meetings and other times. We have a motion before us, and I'd like to vote on it.
Okay, I mean, that's a fair point. Having said that, folks involved with the Maplewood Cemetery do have the right to ask questions about, whether we should or shouldn't do this, and so on and so forth. So we can have a little bit more discussion. I think that's fine, and then we'll see where it goes.
Ed McKinney, Maple Avenue. The gift is a great thing. I'm looking forward to it. But all gifts cost money, and you haven't come across with any kind of money on an annual basis. Is there any perpetual care? Is there what kind of money does this produce?
Okay.
What kind of expense is it to us? It's all expense, and I don't see anything coming in, and I have no idea how much it's going to cost the taxpayer to support.
Okay, great question. So this gets into the whole, like, as we go year to year, how does this work, the financials of things? I don't know if there's anyone here who can address that. Mr. Mangiese? With regard to, let's say, what we have now, and looking at the future, projecting.
The town's budget.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, I don't know.
No, that's, yeah, if you could address that somewhere.
I can, while Kenny looks, the current balance of the town's perpetual care account is about $106,000. So, but I think the question is really how much revenue is Lakeview Cemetery producing annually? Kenny, can we get that right now, or is that something?
Not to be part of the discussion, maybe the question is, right now we have, maybe with this perpetual care, there's money that comes in and there's a certain cost ratio there that happens. Is there some way that that kind of thing can be projected for Maplewood? I don't know if that's what the question is exactly, but it seems like it's going in that direction, you know?
The other question.
Is there anybody here from the Cemetery Commission who could maybe address that?
Currently, we collect property tax off of the, so we,
Folks?
maybe that's something that, yeah, are you sure about that?
No.
So what are we talking about that?
I can talk about Glenn Fowler from 55 Mendon Street,
Yeah.
Cemetery Commissioner.
You know, just give us a sense of cost of
Well,
perpetual
I can
care.
talk about Lakeview finances.
A little bit, sure.
Can't tell you much about Maplewood
That's
finances.
fine.
In Lakeview, we have fees for burials, we have fees for opening and closing graves, we have fees for selling rights to use a lot. Typically, this has been running around $20,000 to $30,000 a year total revenue. And what we don't make in revenue, the town has made up over the years in cost coverage for the DPW operations. Now, I'm sure that Maplewood has similar income and expenses, but I don't know what they are, and I'm not prepared to address those at this point.
Okay.
Is that something you would like to talk about or not? Okay.
So, I think the real question is, what's the cost to the town in the future? That's maybe a question of concern, you know. Is it gonna cost a lot, or will things balance out, like they would typically, you think, balance out?
Okay, the annual operating cost of Maplewood Cemetery maintenance is about $12,000 to $15,000 a year. In the sale of lots, we sell maybe 2 lots a year. It's about $4,000. And in burials, we probably make about another $1,000 yearly. Average. I can go back 15 years that I've been on the board. And it's just not enough to maintain the cemetery properly. It's just been going down and down and down. Thank you.
So if more lots were sold, if there were more burials, then things would balance out, basically. Yes?
Laura Hebb from Grove Street.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of unknown issues with this. Is there any harm, I mean, someone whose child is buried there, I'm hearing from Maplewood that they're losing money each year. The question was raised, what's it gonna cost to the taxpayers? Is there any harm in tabling this until the spring meeting and presenting all of that information so we can make an informed decision?
There is no, technically speaking, if somebody wants to make a motion to table it, they can.
I motion to table.
Wait a minute. Let me, folks, relax. Relax. If you wish, you can make a motion to table this motion.
Now?
You can't, let me finish answering the question. But the question is, can it be tabled? And I'm trying to answer that question. Because at any point in time, anybody can table a motion, and that's what I'm trying to answer. So if people could just let me answer the question, we can move on. You can make a motion to table this. You can do that. It would require a second, but it's not debatable, and it requires 2/3 of the people here to vote in favor to do that. Okay? If that happens, then it gets tabled, and we move on to Article 2B, and so on and so forth. But if you make a motion to table it, and it doesn't pass, then we just continue on with the discussion, and then ultimately vote on it. Does that answer your question?
It does.
So, what would you like to do?
I'd like to make a motion to table Article 2A motion until the spring meeting so we can come forth with hard and firm facts to make an informed decision.
Okay, is there a second? There's a second. So, it's been moved and seconded to table the motion from Article 2A. So, let me explain again what this means. If 2/3 of you want to table this and deal with it later, you'd hold up a green card. If you don't want to table it, you hold up a red card and you say, you know what, I want to keep talking about this and see where we go with it. So that's what that means. And I really need the people to stop the chatter, please, so that everyone can hear what I'm saying. This is an important decision that you're making right now. Okay, so 2/3 of you hold up a green card and you want to table it, we're done with it and we go to other things. But if that's not the case, we continue and we see where we go. You all set with that? Yes. Okay. All those in favor of tabling this, hold up a green card. Okay. All those opposed to table it, hold up a red card. Okay. The motion does not pass by 2/3. Therefore, this has not been tabled. We will continue the discussion and see where it goes. Is there somebody over here who wanted to make some comments? Mr. Simons?
Yeah, I mean, we can try to fill in. So I think some of the hesitation you're seeing is the questions around there's sort of the cemetery operations, which the town doesn't have the expertise in, and that's what Mr. Wood shared with you. So if the question is about the cemetery operations, those are the numbers that Mr. Wood just shared. In terms of the ongoing maintenance and cost to the town, that's what these additional articles are around. So there's some capital expenses associated with trucks and mowers and blowers, et cetera, that need to be purchased in order to maintain the property. There's also the FTE associated with hiring somebody to do the maintenance of the cemetery. That cost is also in here in the next articles. And so I think the number is one FTE, because there's $17,000 in here for an FTE, but that's only for the remainder of this fiscal year. Next year it'll be a full year, and then the ongoing cost of that salary is about $34,000 a year, give or take. So it sounds like there's some revenue and expense associated with the cemetery operations, which is about, what would you say, Russ? So after you do all the pluses and minuses, how much are you sort of losing, or is it costing the association each year to run the operation?
At least 10,000.
So about $10,000 a year, it's going to cost us to sort of run this operation of the cemetery. Does that include all the maintenance that you pay for now?
Some of this, yes.
Okay. So it costs $10,000, including all of the administration, the work, the mowing, the maintenance, the upkeep, etc.
Kind of on the low side. It's going to be a little higher.
A little bit higher, right? So if it's going to cost us, say, $35,000 a year in FTE, we're going to spend whatever the number is, about $40,000 or $50,000 on equipment, which we'll be voting on. That's what the ballpark numbers are. So
Okay.
if you want exact numbers,
No,
then
I think that gives us a sense of what we're
Yeah, the
looking
order
at.
of
I think that's what we want. Okay, good. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I would like to talk about the people,
Name,
not
please.
the land. Because the people that are buried in...
Name and address, please.
Oh, Jeannie Pellerin, 105 Main Street.
Okay?
And I have a 4-plot site in Maplewood where my
Okay.
parents are buried.
Fine.
I'm going to be buried there. I want to talk about the people that are involved in this, not the land itself. It's a cemetery, it's also a park. But the people that are buried there are not all from Upton. And when you transfer the ownership of this park cemetery to Upton, the people that are buried there or have plots there that are not from Upton will have no say in anything after this. But right now, we have in our bylaws, it says that we're supposed to have meetings every year. If you have 100 square feet or more, that you are a member of the association. And this is something that I just found out a couple weeks ago. I never even thought to look because my parents bought this site. And the notification that we had to change things to go in line with the Cemetery Association of Upton was a sticky note stuck to our headstone, which I wouldn't even have known about if a lady from Mendon hadn't called me upset about this whole thing, because she got a sticky note too. And I went up, and sure enough, I have a sticky note, handwritten, that says that I have to do such and such and such, and take out plants and things that we were always allowed to have, and they were allowed by our bylaws to have. The things are going to change in there. We know it. It isn't necessarily a bad thing that Upton takes it over. I know they need space, but you can buy a plot in Maplewood Cemetery if you want to, so it's always been available for 158 years. It's not that easy to find out about it because there's nothing online that says how much it costs or anything like that. I spent the last week looking at all this. It's a complete lack of information that's been given out. I had copies of bylaws in my parents' files. The lady that called me did not have a copy of the bylaws. She never received them. She didn't know that we were supposed to have meetings, and neither did I. We would have come. We would have participated. And I think we could have helped the cemetery be more fiscally, whatever you want to call it. Because as they say in there, they're going to have weddings and things like that in the cemetery. We could have had that. We didn't know that there was any question that there was a problem. The only thing I heard earlier was that there was some talk of selling it to the discussion of selling it to the town, and that's the last I heard of it until the sticky note. I don't think it's that big a deal to push it off until the spring so that people can know what's going on. It's going to be closed down for the winter anyway, as it has for its entire existence. So there's not going to be much going on. So it's really not that much for people to let us have a little time to be able to communicate with each other and to find out what's going on and what we can do. And as far as the money goes, reading through these, there's some kind of a fund that has $20,000 in it, and then there's a future thing from the Notons that there's some kind of a thing where one of the family members has an annuity,
Yep.
and when that family member dies, it goes to splits between the town and Maplewood Cemetery. So if they get that, the town is going to be wind up with almost $750,000, and then $20,000 to say that the Maplewood Cemetery is worth $20,000. I don't think so. I mean, I'm a property owner, and I doubt that that's an accurate amount. So it's a sizable gift to give to the town. I mean,
Yep.
it's a huge gift.
It
It's
is,
not
so-
a bad thing.
Yep.
So to ask that we get a little bit more time to be able to do what we need to do to get our house in order, to let people know what's going on, to notify them properly, I don't think it's that much to ask.
Okay, just so you know, we just had a motion to table it. It was not voted for, so just so that you're aware of it.
I know,
So-
but we vote, and I'm asking everybody here to remember that a cemetery is not a place for just the dead, it's also for the living.
Okay,
You're getting a park, not just a cemetery, you're getting a park, you're getting places to bury people, which you already had the right to do. And it's not a lot to respect the rights of the people that are already there, who have already paid to be there. And whose parents are buried there, whose kids are buried there. And it's just a few months, really. I'm asking you to vote no, and then they can submit it again in the spring. It's not that big a deal, but it is to us. And I'm not a good speaker, but I hope you listen to me. Thank you.
Bill Andrews, 84 High Street, I move the motion.
Second.
So there's been a motion to move the question, and it's been seconded. Basically what that means is that you're done hearing about it, and you eventually want to vote on it. You need 2/3 of you to say that you're done listening to it. So, all those in favor of moving the question, hold up your green card. All those opposed, hold up the red card. Okay, so it passes by a 2/3 majority to move the question. So what that means now is this. Right now, we are going to vote on the motion from Article 2A. You've heard a lot of discussion. You've heard the presentation made by Mr. Brindisi, questions back and forth on whether we should do this or not. Okay, so this requires a majority vote to pass. Okay, any questions on what you're voting for? Okay, good. All those in favor of passing the motion to acquire Maplewood Cemetery, hold up your green card. Hold it high. Okay, all those opposed, hold the red card. The motion passes by a majority. Article 2B.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Brett Simus, 7 Barbers Path, Upton, Mass. I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $35,000 to fund the purchase and equipping of a 1-ton dump truck for use by the DPW Parks Forestry Cemetery Division, primarily for, amongst other things, the upkeep and maintenance of Maplewood Cemetery, including all expenses incidental and related.
FinCom second? Second? Thank you. FinCom recommendation?
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Favorable action by the FinCom. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor hold up the green card. All those opposed hold up the red card. The motion passes by a majority. Article 2C.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Article 2C, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $17,000 for the costs of salary and benefits for hiring a new full-time employee in the DPW from April 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2022.
Is there a second? Move and second to FinCom recommendation.
Favorable action.
Okay, any discussion? See? Mr. Machado, yeah.
So there was obviously quite a bit of discussion about the acquisition of the property. I think that's a great asset for the town. Now you get into some of these reoccurring costs. And again, we're talking about equipment. Now we're talking about labor. I tend to be, as many people may know, the fiscal conservative. I like spending money. I don't like spending all this money. So here's a situation where you're going to hire a full-time employee. Here's something that, is this a good time to do that? I don't think it is. I think this is an opportunity where it's not a good time to hire somebody. I think that when you look at the damage that's been done to our economy due to the pandemic, is this the time to be expanding government? So I think this is something where you need to consider. There's 4 articles that are all included as part of that acquisition of that cemetery. So here's an opportunity. What do you think about that? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion derived from Article 2C, hold up your green card. Okay. All those opposed, hold up the red card. The motion passes by a majority. Article 2D.
Rena Richards, 125 Westboro Road. I'm the chairman of the CPC. I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $40,000 from the Community Preservation Fund Historic Preservation Reserve account to fund the repair of the stone wall at Maple Cemetery, including all expenses incidental and related.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Finance Committee recommendation.
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
CPC recommendation.
Favorable action.
And the CBC, Capital Budget Committee.
Favorable action.
Favorable action from all three committees. Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green card. All those opposed, hold up the red card. Passes by majority. Article 3. Motion for Article 3, please.
Mr. Moderator,
Yeah.
Paul Flaherty, 29 Taft Street. I move to transfer to the stabilization fund the sum of $436,497, the amounts previously appropriated under Article 7 of the 2021 annual town meeting to the Mendon Upton Regional School District annual assessment, which funds are no longer needed for that purpose.
Second, moved and seconded. Finance Committee recommendation, obviously.
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Just want to double check with town council. Does this require 2/3 since it's being moved into stabilization? I don't think so, just the majority, right?
Through you, Mr. Moderator.
Say what?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, that's correct.
That's correct. It's a majority moving it in, 2/3 moving it out.
Correct.
Just want to make sure, because sometimes the state changes that law. So, okay, thank you. Yes.
Laura Head from Grove Street. I have just a question. Did the money originally come out of stabilization, so we're returning it to stabilization?
It originally came from free cash.
Well, then a follow-up question is, why is it not going back into free cash?
Because we, go ahead, Mr. Moderator.
Yeah, please, yeah.
We took the position that to follow the financial reserve policy that the town has, to maintain at least 10% of your operational budget in stabilization, that this money would be best served to be put back into the stabilization account. The reason the 10% is there, it helps you when we're going out to bond. You get a more favorable rating from the bonding agencies. Very shortly, we'll be going out to bid on the new community center, and there are a couple other opportunities that the financial director has where he will be seeking bonding. So to keep it to our advantage, that we have a better bond rating, we recommend to put this money into the stabilization first, so we'll maintain that, and then to keep it in line with the financial reserve policy that was adopted some years ago.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Ms. Heck?
Just to understand, so were we not at the 10% when we agreed to spend that money and provide it to the schools?
Sorry?
No, we were under that amount.
So we're trying to fix a previous error.
Okay, wait until I recommend.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. So if you want to make a comment, then go ahead.
I'm just trying to understand the accounts and the ramifications. So we're just trying to fix a previous.
That money,
Mr. Fleury?
Thank you, Mr.
Ken, you want it? Maybe Ken can help.
Ken, you want to handle it?
10% issue.
Can everybody hear me? So just to keep it simple, just to keep the numbers round. So at the end of fiscal year 21, we finished with $2 million. Our budget was $24 million, so 10% of that is 2.4. So with this 400,000, we will be at 2.4, which will be very favorable with the rating agencies. We'll be speaking to S&P in a couple of weeks, so we would like to tell them that we're at the 10% with the 2.4, so we can maintain our bond rating.
Okay, so 2.4 was 10% of 24 million. That's essentially what the number.
Yeah, just to keep it round, just to keep simple math.
Okay, good. Anything else? No? Okay. Very good. So all those in favor of moving that money into stabilization, signify by holding up a green card. Okay. All those opposed, no. Hold up the red card. Thank you. You know, sometime tonight I'm going to say yeas and nays. I'm just telling you right now, it's going to happen. Okay. So thank you. Article 4. That is a majority. Yes, it's a majority. Article 4. Yes, Mrs. Dwinell.
Maureen Dwinell, 154 West River Street. I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $11,100 to purchase 10 bulletproof vests, including all expenses, incidental, and related.
Okay, thank you. Second? FinCom recommendation?
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Favorable action by the FinCom. Any discussion? Thank you. Seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green card. All those opposed, hold up the red card. Motion carries unanimously. Good. Article 5.
It's Rick McGuire, 11 Whitney Lane. I'm the chairman of the DPW Feasibility Committee. And in that respect, I'm bringing forward the unanimous vote from the committee to bring it forward. It was approved by the Board of Selectmen. I move that the town will vote to transfer from the capital stabilization account the sum of $200,000 and to transfer an additional $35,000 from free cash for a total appropriation of $235,000 to fund the procurement of 25% complete design documents and services, schematic designs, for the proposed renovation and addition to the Public Works facility building and all incidental and related costs, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen and appropriate town officials to take all related actions necessary or appropriate to carry out the vote taken hereunder, such project to be managed by a DPW building committee appointed by the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, thank you. Second? Second. Moved and seconded. FinCom recommendation?
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Favorable action. This does require a 2/3 majority vote because... Thank you very much. This does require a 2/3 majority vote because we're taking money from stabilization and capital budget committee.
Unanimous.
Unanimous, yes?
Favorable.
Favorable action by the capital budget committee. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, see. And address, please.
Art Sebastiano, 18 Rockdale Hill Circle. Just using your math before, doesn't the 200,000 take us under the 10%?
I thank you for the math.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Does that take us under the 10%?
This is out of the capital
Yeah.
stabilization
I got
fund.
you. Go ahead.
So actually it doesn't. So the 10% we're talking about is the general stabilization account. The account we're talking about is the capital stabilization account, two separate accounts. And there'll be $5,075 left after this $200,000 appropriation.
Essentially, there's a number of different stabilization accounts for different things, and the 10% thing is the general stabilization. That's the key item. So, thank you. Great question. Yes, sir.
Steve Taylor, 19 Hartford Ave North. Do we have any idea of what the overall project costs for the DPW renovation and addition will be beyond the $235,000?
Okay. That's a question.
I have, let me just dig up the number. I do have a PowerPoint presentation here, but let me just answer the question quickly. For the design part of this, we've broken it up into 3 stages, if you will. There's the schematic diagram. We're calling it milestone at 25% deliverable. There is a design section where we do the design work. That has a 60% milestone where 60% of the work will be finished. The last piece is construction drawings. That's the last 15%. So what we're looking at is $235,000 for the first part to get the schematic diagrams out. The rest of the project for stage 2 and 3 is a cost of $675,000 for the design, and when we're finished, this is in September of 2021 dollars. We're looking at $910,000 for the design of this Phase 1 building, the DPW building, and that will give us cost estimates at various points, independent cost estimates, and those independent cost estimates, the folks that do that work are very attuned to what's going on in the supply chain, and know what some of the holdups will be. You hear about it on the news all the time. When we went through with the Board of Selectmen and presented to them the cost for the Phase 1 document, this was in September just last year, was $9.7 million, and I have an exact number, just let me look it up. The phase 2 was 4.15 million for a total of 13.85. That was the money that was in October 6th of 2020, which we reviewed with the Board of Selectmen. This project, just so you know, I think it was in 2013, the board authorized the town with $25,000 to go out and do a study. And due to other priorities within the town, it really didn't take off again until 2018. Our committee was put in place in January of 2019, and we were given another $15,000 to complete this. So this is a project that's been started, stopped. It really took up momentum on January of 2019. And so those are the numbers. There's another slide, and I think, Miles, since you're asking that. Sandy, you picked up that. These are the people that are on the Feasibility Committee. Now, some people before the meeting came in and asked me particulars about the building. Where is it? What's it situated? This is the aerial view of the current DPW facility. And that ribbon you see on the left corner, that's Pleasant Street. The round circular parking lot, that's the parking lot for Nipmuc High School, this high school. And the building on the lower left, that is the actual DPW building. And the vertical building going in the other direction, that's the salt shack, if you will. And the red line is there highlighted because that is all the property right now that's available and assigned to the DPW building. So what you see is in that building, in that area, we're using less than 50% of the square footage for the current facility.
Sandy, you want to step first?
Well, I think you've answered the initial question, so I mean.
I'll take the next question.
Okay, yeah. Seth?
Laura, I just want to make sure I understand what you said. So basically, it would be $910,000 for design, and then the cost of the building would be an additional $13.85 million in 2020 prices?
Yes. What we're recommending is the total building for phase 1, and that's what we're recommending to move forward with the phase 1 of the building. And this is phase 1. This is the proposed building. It's a linear outlay, and we have a phase 1 and a phase 2. If you look at the salmon colored part, that's phase 2. The yellow is what we're proposing to do with phase 1, and that's the total, including design, of 9.7. So the entire project is 9.7 million on that, and the dollars that were approved. We went through and we did a value engineering study on this. And that's where you go in there and look at the key functions and key activities you have to deliver, and what we have to address, top priority goals in order of priority: employee safety, regulatory compliance, and department effectiveness. What we're recommending is a building. This is a vision, phase 1, phase 2. We want to have one linear building that's modular and extendable. Phase 1 is the yellow part. What we're proposing to do is renovate the existing building, which is 9,000 square feet, adding new construction of 11,000 square feet. And so if you look in the yellow block, I don't have a laser pointer, but if you look at that larger yellow block, that's vehicle storage. About half of that building is existing DPW building. So what we're talking about doing is renovating that existing building, 9,000 square feet, and adding a new construction of 11,000 square feet. So parts in yellow is there. The salt shed that was there before moves up in the right corner. And phase 2 of the building is the salmon color, and that's adding a third lift for cars and trucks, well, not cars, trucks, or heavy-duty equipment. The last piece is adding vehicle storage.
Okay, thank you.
this is really, I think, what you're driving at. Why now? And if we take a look at what's the cost, escalation in cost, you see if we would have started this building, the blue line, for instance, is the actual costs that have been given to us by architectural engineers in our architectural engineering firm that have done numerous projects. This is the going rates. So if you take a look, for instance, the blue line going up, that's the existing rates. Last September, in the middle of COVID, when things were looking so bleak, engineering construction companies and contractors were bidding lower than the actual values at that time. So it was about a 20% discount. That's that blue dip. And we've got into this summer where there's shortages of materials. You hear about the supply chain problems, building materials hard to get. That was the blue line going up. That was a pandemic-driven anomaly. If you take a look then, the sensitivity analysis, if you look at the construction, the red line is saying, okay, when this is over, we're going to have a 5% escalation charge, and then potentially there could be another add-on of another 5 to 10%. So the red line would go up there. The green line is saying at the end of this pandemic, which folks and the supply chain issues, they say it should end this spring, this summer. That's the forecast, you know. That green line is the cost that we would be, would be the cost going forward. So that's a 5% escalation charge. And if you take a look at the red dots, unfortunately only one appears, but Sandy, do we have the arrow there? No. Okay. Anyway, I'll tell you. Oh, there it is. Remember I told you we're going to take the existing building and renovate it. And by renovating it, if we were built this thing in 2018, our cost for the construction would have been $297 a square foot. If we would have built this in 2021, we're looking at, what's that number? $392, and it's going up. So one of the things we're seeing is we look at this over time, the escalation charges keep going up due to inflation, and every family is experiencing this. So you see what's happening. If you look at design, those are US designers, that cost will be pretty consistent. If you look at construction, that's where supply chain comes in, and that's why the sensitivity, because no one is sure where this thing is going to end up.
Thank you. Yes. Do you have a comment to make?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So I don't know, looks like most of you probably remember Ross Perot. Look here at these charts. So, you know, this is important information to have, but I'd love to just sort of take a second and step back and look at the context of all this, right? You know, we just invested $10 million in a community center, and now we're talking about another $10 million on a DPW. Like, at what point are we gonna get our sea legs back? So I think it's important to recognize that when we think about this stuff, or at least the way that I think about it and some others in town think about it is, right, we're doing long-term strategic planning. You have some major capital assets that you invest in as a municipality, right? Like you've got a fire department, you've got a police department, you've got schools, and you have you know, a library community center, right? So our police department has been invested in over the past 20, 25 years. The schools as well, the fire department as well. We just made some updates to those. We just now are investing in the community center. So in terms of, you know, a 10, 15, 20, 30-year plan, the DPW is next strategically in line for a major investment. Nobody's suggesting that, you know, next year we should come back and spend $10 million. These projects are multiple year efforts, and there's a lot of planning that goes into them. So what this first $300,000, and again, I'll round the numbers, I know they're big numbers, but for sake of argument, right, $300,000 gets us that first level of detail. Okay, we wouldn't spend $1 million until we see what we could get and say, you know what, are we gonna move forward or not? And every step of the way, this body gets to vote and decide if it's the right next step to take. And by the time we get through phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, and get to that $10 million question, right, that's going to be several years down the road. That number may be $10 million, it hopefully will be something less. The reason we got here is that the initial ask, when we went and asked about a DPW, the response came back from consultants for a $15 million project, and we just know, like, there's no way that was gonna happen. So we created this committee, the Feasibility Committee. They did their value engineering, and they went through and found ways to break this investment down over years and get the costs a bit more under control. So again, I only say that to say there's a much broader context here. It's not about just trying to run headlong and spend all this money. It's about being thoughtful about the strategic investments in the community, knowing that we have to make these investments over time. The town's been growing, we continue to grow. We have more roads, we have great roads, we have some new developments going in. We want to be able to take care of the materials, the equipment, the staff. Some of what's in the DPW right now is outdated because we haven't invested there in decades. And so it's, you know, next in line in terms of our planning and investment to get to this DPW project. So again, it's not going to happen imminently, but this is the first step in moving down that path. Thank you.
Mr. Mark, just one more point of clarification. It looked like phase one was, the yellow was large. Where will the DPW, will they be able to operate and maintain in the same facility, or are they going to have to be moved during the design?
Great question.
We've talked to Dennis, and in the planning thus far, we'll be able to operate that building as you see it. Sandy, could you go back a couple? Right there. If you take a look right about where that salmon colored part is, that is today the edge of the current salt shed, which we're going to end up moving. But the large box there, the vehicle, yes, that large box, 50% of that is new, the wash bay is new, and then we have the vehicle lifts and the vehicle work area. That's new construction. About the edge of that building is about 10 feet from where the salt shed is today. So the building in the middle will be built first. They'll allow the other parts to continue operating, and then the second phase they'll come in and do the last piece.
Thank you.
Dale Lazarus, 10 Farr Road, capital budget, and also feasibility committee member. This is a project that is on the current capital plan from 2017 to 22 that's closing out. We got to start our next capital planning cycle, so this is bringing a project forward and continuing to move it forward as opposed to abandoning it or ditching it. The committee took a lot of time to take a bunch of, like I said, value engineering to try to reduce unnecessary costs and to be thoughtful in terms of breaking up to a phase one and phase two. And typically a schematic design is usually somewhere like 15% of a project. That's why we have the number 25% in there. Because the goal, as you can see from the article, ask is to actually do all of the planning so we can do a nice hard budget and an independent cost estimate. So we know what it would cost to do phase one and do phase two and come back to this body in a timely manner in the next calendar year to make informed decisions on how to move forward with a project like this.
Mr. Fleming.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, Robert Fleming, 54 East Street. I know everyone is intimidated by this, but it's called planning. The third well that we have in Upton, because we do not have a shortage of water, was a 6-year project with the state and came in today. If you tried to do it, it'd be double the money. This school was built for $24 million. Try and build it today. The TIP project that you see out there, the town invested $600,000. It took 7 years for those roads to be reconstructed by the state. This is something the town controls through its own planning and budgetary process. It is smart to plan now because the inflationary costs in the future are going to kill you. So if this building is built for $9 million today, if you delay it 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you're going to be looking at $15 million. To procrastinate does not save money.
Mr. Andrews. I don't think we need your services right now. It looks like we're done, but
Then we can move the question since you're yielding, Mr. Andrews.
So you want to move the question, Mr. Battaglia? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think I need to.
I was just going to say, this is an important question for the people to decide upon. It's also a question about timing. So here we are, is this the right time? It's $235,000, I think was the number. Given the state that we're in right now, the monies that we're asking for, is this something that we need to spend now, or maybe is May the right time? Sooner or later, we've got to cross that bridge. The building is going to need to be updated. It's really a question of now or later. So again, speaking as the contrarian, I know Mr. Lazarus is in favor. I'm going to be a no on this. I just think that a lot of people in town that come and speak to me, they still have, they're a little bit, I'm going to use the term shell-shocked. We still don't have even a shovel in the ground for the community center library project. So we haven't even started that project yet. So do we really, is this the right time to ask people for this money to spend? And again, Mr. Fleming's correct, Mr. Lazarus, Mr. McGuire, all good points. Again, we're talking about timing. Nothing wrong with saying no now and being a yes later. But for myself and the people that have come and spoke to me, I am a no. I just think it's just too much right now to pile on to the people. We're in a weak economy. We've lost a couple of businesses up on Route 140. I'm a small business owner. Everybody's feeling it. So, everybody in the private sector, I should say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, seeing none, so keep in mind, this is for $235,000. This requires a two-thirds majority vote because we're taking money from stabilization. All those in favor, hold up your green card. All those opposed, hold up the red card. It is a two-thirds majority vote. Article 10, 6 through 9 have been withdrawn. Madam Town Clerk.
Kelly McElrath, Town Clerk, 11 Maple Street. I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $15,000 for the purpose of consolidating records at Town Hall and creating a database for retention purposes, including all expenses incidental and related.
Okay. Second, FinCom recommendation.
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Favorable action by the FinCom. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green card. Opposed, hold up the red card. Motion carries unanimously.
Kelly McElrath, I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $8,000 for the purchase of a Model DS200 scanner optical scan vote tabulation system or its equivalent and for other election materials for the use at town elections, including all expenses and incidentals and related.
Second. Moved and seconded. FinCom recommendation.
Favorable action.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor hold up the green card. All those opposed hold up the red card. Motion carries by a majority. Article 12.
Kelly McElrath again. I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $5,800 for the purpose of upgrading the door access program for the town hall, including all expenses incidental and related.
Second.
Second, FinCom recommendation.
Favorable action.
Favorable action, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor hold up the green card. All those opposed hold up the red card. Motion carries by majority.
I thought I was done. Kelly McElrath, now I'm representing the Board of Assessors. I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $23,585 to fund the contract for the annual maintenance and reporting, interim year property valuation adjustments in the quinennial, I've never tried to say that word, update, and the certification of real and personal property valuations for the Assessor's Office.
Second,
Second.
moved and seconded. Finance Committee recommendation.
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Favorable action. I think it's Quinn. Okay, thank you. There you go. Sounds good too. Okay, any discussions?
No, I'm here for
Oh, you're here for the next one? Okay. Note that that's $23,580. The article is 50. Every now and then, the motion comes in less than the article. Okay? So, all those in favor, hold up the green card. All those opposed, hold up the red card. Motion carries by a majority. 14.
Bill Taylor, 211 North Street. I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court for enactment of special legislation to establish a senior citizen property tax exemption as printed in the warrant under Article 14, provided, however, that the General Court may make clerical or editorial changes of form only to the bill unless the Board of Selectmen approve amendments to the bill before enactment by the General Court, and provided further that the Board of Selectmen is hereby authorized to approve amendments which shall be within the scope of the general public objectives of this petition.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Now, even though there's no financials here, does the FinCom have any comment or recommendation regarding this or not?
Mr. Moderator, we took a favorable position on this.
Okay,
even
fine.
though there is a financial aspect involved in this.
Right, which is why I'm asking the question, so thank you very much. Okay, good. So, any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, I assume this requires just a majority vote, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Oh, there is a question. Yep.
Sorry, I don't know, I'm Gina Flynn Upton. I don't know what does this mean?
You know,
I'm sorry.
No, you know what? Don't apologize. Because guess what? There's about 50 or 60 other people who don't really quite understand what this means either, and they were wondering who's going to ask that question. So, Mr. Taylor, explain what this means.
Yeah, essentially this grants an exemption to people who qualify for the state's circuit breaker credit in an amount equal to that credit.
Okay? That's a short answer, which is fine. If people don't want a long answer, that's okay. So, okay.
Yeah,
that
we
might
did-
help, yeah.
Yeah, so the amounts that are paid out under this exemption will be charged to the assessor's overlay account. We estimated $50,000. I think that's a very conservative estimate in the sense that it's probably the very highest it could be. Hopkinton has a similar program and spent, I think they had 24 exemptions, so that would be about $24,000. The circuit breaker credits are typically $900 to $1,000. So it's probably between $24,000 and $50,000 that gets charged to the overlay account.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Simon?
It might be helpful too to, I mean, this is simply a tax relief warrant article for senior citizens. So can you talk a little bit about how you qualify and the amount of money that senior citizens can save?
Well, so the qualifications are related directly to the circuit breaker qualifications, and there's income. Are there asset qualifications? No, there's just an income qualification, and there's also your house has to be underneath, in terms of assessed value, basically the average, statewide average, which is about, now it's about $800,000. So if your income is under the maximum, and your house is under $800,000 in value, you qualify for the credit. The only distinction I think that we make is we require a 10-year residency. I think for the state it's 5 years, if I remember correctly.
I have just a couple questions. Each year we do something, I think that's either like this or the same thing as this at the annual town meeting with regard to senior citizens being able to get tax relief and stuff. Is this the same thing or different thing? So that's a different thing than this. Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure we understood. Okay, so this is not those programs, it's something different than that. So, okay, go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
Essentially, it is one more tool for tax relief to our seniors.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, hold up the green cards. All those opposed, hold up the red cards. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Very good. So, Article 15. DPW question. You've got the motion. Ms. Woodall.
I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court for special legislation to amend Chapter 263 of the 1989 Acts and Resolves and establishing a Department of Public Works in the town of Upton by amending the first paragraph of Section 1, thereby allowing the hiring authority to enter into an employment contract with the director for a period not to exceed 5 years, provided, however, that the General Court may make clerical or editorial changes of form only to the bill, unless the Board of Selectmen approve amendments to the bill before enactment by the General Court, and provided further that the Board of Selectmen is hereby authorized to approve amendments which shall be within the scope of the general public objectives of this petition.
Okay, is there a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying your green card up in the air. I got myself. Opposed, red card. Okay, it passes by a majority. Article 16. Who's got the motion? Okay, please go down.
I move that the town vote to transfer for free cash the sum of $293,875 to fund the purchase and equipping a 10-wheel dump truck with a snowplow/spreader, including all expenses and incidental and related costs.
Second.
Moved and seconded by the FinCom. Any discussion?
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Favorable action. Very good. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Oh, Capital Budget Committee. It says right here, CBC.
Favorable action.
Favorable action by the Capital Budget. Thank you very much. Okay. Anything else? Seeing none. All those in favor, hold up your green cards. All those opposed, hold up your red cards. Motion carries by a majority. 17 to withdrawn, 18. Who's got the motion for 18? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to transfer for the construction and/or improvement of town roads the sum of $169,000 or $169,583 from the amounts previously appropriated under Article 2B of the 2021 annual town meeting for the Mendon Upton Regional School District annual assessment, which funds are no longer needed for that purpose.
Second.
It's Article 18. Okay. The article doesn't say anything about the Mendon Upton Regional School District annual assessment. Somebody needs to explain to me, if they can, why this fits within the four corners of this article. Because it says nothing in the article about the Mendon Upton Regional School District. Someone explain to me how this fits.
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, so the motion, the way it was written, was just to provide clarity because we believe that there'd be questions as to why we're moving a sum of money from the previous town meeting to roads. So as you can recall, at the annual town meeting, we had to fund approximately a $1.4 million assessment by the schools. And so that was funded in many different ways. One way, you can recall, we had to cut the roads budget in its entirety. And so because the Regional School District, they were defeated twice at the Mendon override, the town was able to save approximately $600,000. A portion of that savings, we talked about it earlier, was transferred into stabilization. The other portion of the savings is what's before you right now, and is to be put towards roads if this body were to approve.
Okay, thank you. So this is just coming from that pile of cash that we have left over because of the school situation?
That's correct.
Very good. Thank you very much. And this is not the same thing as the Chapter 90 funds that we get refunded by the state. This is a different thing than that as well. Okay, thank you. All right, good. So, it does fit within the four corners of the act. Very good. Have I asked for a second?
Second.
And I asked for a recommendation.
Favorable action.
Favorable action. Very good. Any other discussion about this? Seeing none, all those hold up the green card. Okay. All those opposed, hold up your red card. Okay. The motion carries unanimously. Even though we actually had one red card, we looked at the green card. Oh, it was unanimous. I'm sorry about that. It's majority. Okay. 19.
Article 19. I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $38,000 for the inspection, permitting, and aquatic weed treatment at Lake Wildwood, Pratt, and Taft Ponds, including all expenses incidental and related.
Second. Moved and seconded. FinCom recommendation?
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, hold up. Those of you who are in favor, hold up a green card. Those of you who are opposed will hold up your red card. Motion carries by a majority. So before we adjourn, is Mr. Robertson here? If not, okay, so before we have a motion to adjourn, once again, I'm saying this more now than I ever have in the past, but appreciate the fact that you have an opportunity to attend a town meeting in a town like ours. It's so precious, it's so important. You are the legislative body of the town of Upton, okay? So you make decisions that are important to the town. So thank you again for coming. Mr. Wood, would you like to make the motion?
I move that we dissolve the county.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Second. This is the one time I'm going to ask for the voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, folks. Good night.